Hello, my name is Ashley Kim Weiss. I'm the National Coordinator of Together for Choice, which is a national disability advocacy organization with a mission to protect and advance the rights of individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities to live, work, and thrive in a community or setting of their choice. I'm here today to make a case for choice when it comes to life options for adults with autism and other developmental disabilities. As we can see here, California serves over 417,000 DDS consumers, and 36% of them are adults between the age of 22 and 99. So that's about 150,000 people. Also, it shows that about 80% of all consumers are still living at home with parents or legal guardian, and 60% of consumers age 22 and older are still living at home. Now, not all 150,000 people will want exactly the same thing. So this is exactly why we need a full array of options for different needs and preferences. We need group homes, campus settings, continuum of care, farmsteads, apartments, pocket neighborhood, family's home, one's own home or apartment. We need them all because one size just does not fit all. So let's take a look at some of these options. First one is an organization that many of you are familiar with. Life Services Alternatives, also known as LSA, manages and operates 15 quality community group homes throughout the Santa Clara County. LSA provides optional in-home day program as well as community-based day program. Having an option of in-home day program is so important for individuals who may not be able to participate in community-based programs due to their medical or behavioral conditions. Next, we have Momentum, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy of Los Angeles. Momentum provides over 35 programs and service sites across 5 counties in Southern California. It offers 22 various residential options, including group homes, independent living, apartments, and neurodiverse apartments. Momentum, at least in California, was one of the pioneers of DD affordable housing. In the past, the organization had built a number of high quality affordable apartments specifically for people with disabilities. But ever since HUD changed its Section 811 program and limited the allocation of IDD units down to 25%, it has only focused on set-aside units such as 10, 15, 25% set-aside projects. But I'm glad the organization is still doing a lot of good work on creating affordable housing options. Next, we have Bittersweet Farms, which was founded in 1983 as the first autism farmstead community, specializing in supporting individuals with high behavioral needs. Its 80-acre main campus is in White House, which is very close to Toledo, Ohio. And half of the property is wooded with hiking trails connecting to the largest metro parks in the region. It also has satellite programs in Pemberville and Lima. And its overall philosophy of care is called MAPS, and it is incorporated into everything they do, including planning, activity completion, and problem solving. So meaning and motivation means it's not just about checking the box or doing busy work, but it's about helping people understand the purpose and meaning in every activity so that they would be motivated to participate. Aerobics and active engagement, they try to get as much physical activity as possible, straight up aerobics, exercise, farm work, tasks such as pulling, lifting, pushing. These are all very natural and holistic and fun way to release endorphins and have good occupational therapy type activities. Partnership and purpose, they do everything together. It's a partnership and collaboration between staff and participants where you can't tell who is staff and who is participant. And finally, structure and support, which is a foundation where everything is structured throughout the day with a lot of individualized supports that people with autism may need, such as visual supports, communication supports, and many others. Overall, Bittersweet provides residential services to 42 adults in their intermediate care facility homes, as well as home and community-based settings such as apartment units and group homes. It also provides day services to 85 adults, and its adolescent programs include transition program, summer camp, extended school year, as well as community social recreational programs. The program is tiered into recreational, pre-vocational, and employment offerings so that people are able to participate based on their preferences and abilities. These are pictures from some of these programs, such as community gardens, creative arts, and animal care, and various community-based programs. Here we have an excellent continuum of care model called Misericordia, which is in Chicago, Illinois. For those of you who have read David Axelrod's New York Times opinion article in 2021, that was July of 2021, this is where his daughter lives. Misericordia and its 1,100 dedicated employees serve over 600 residents from birth to end of life in the greater Chicago area. Prior to the pandemic, it has served additional 200 day and weekend participants, but that particular day program has been on hold. Currently, it has over 400 people on the wait list, which is becoming more diverse with complicated diagnosis and with people who require intense behavior support. On campus, Misericordia operates intermediate care facility homes, community living apartment building, aging homes with memory care. Off campus in the greater Chicago area, Misericordia operates 14 community group homes. Residents at Misericordia receive individualized support, such as specialized behavior support, medical services such as dental, PT, OT, employment, and recreational programs. They also participate in staying connected virtual programs. Now that we're talking about various residential and day service settings, it would be important to cover the federal Medicaid regulation called the Home and Community-Based Services Settings Rule, also known as the Settings Rule. The Settings Rule is a federal rule that ensures people's basic human rights, rights to person-centered choice, privacy, autonomy, access, and opportunities. Pretty much what California's Land Term Act has already established. With that, it establishes eligibility requirements for residential, day, and employment settings that receive HCBS Medicaid funding. It also defines settings that are not HCBS or may not be HCBS. So for many people, this can be very confusing. So we have created a tutorial video, We Mean Together for Choice, on this rule, and it is available on our YouTube channel, which you can find when you go to YouTube, type in Together for Choice. But we also have provided the link in this presentation. So when you download this particular presentation, you'll be able to access the link to the video. The settings rule is not just about physical characteristics. In order to be eligible for HCBS funding, a setting needs to ensure that an individual is able to make informed choices based on his or her experiences in various settings that offer person-centered options, including disability-specific and non-disability-specific settings. So it's about outcomes, right? And quality of individual experiences. It's about making sure that you are maximizing opportunities for integration. At the same time, if a person does not want to engage in the greater community, the person has the right to do so without there being any violation of the settings rule. Because after all, opportunity means choice. So this means that the settings rule does not just prohibit intentional communities, campus settings, farm set communities, because it's not just about physical characteristics. It's really about the outcome. So the settings rule does ensure that these people living in these type of communities are able to access the greater community and able to make informed choices based on their experiences. So Together for Choice works very closely with families, providers, and housing groups to make sure that this rule doesn't gets interpreted and implemented properly across the country. Because let's face it, many housing projects have to rely on the availability of this funding for services. So here's one example in Oklahoma. A New Leaf was founded in 1979 as a horticulture vocational provider in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Mary Ogle, its current CEO, came to A New Leaf in 2011 and grew the program from 60 clients to 500 clients. After acquiring a residential service program in 2013, A New Leaf started looking into expanding its residential options for its clients. So that's how they came up with the vision of building the village at A New Leaf, which was supposed to be a person-centered, safe, and affordable intentional community for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So they raised over $19.2 million and obtained tax credit funding to build a village, which included four styles of housing to meet each of 62 residents' different needs and preferences. Transition Academy that would help prepare young adults to live and work independently. Cafe, horticulture training center, retail shop, administration offices, and other various program spaces. Now, the state of Oklahoma was concerned that the village right here would be too isolating because it was a disability-specific / campus setting. It even compared the Transition Academy to intermediate care facility and stated that as long as the Transition Academy existed, it would not overcome the presumption of being an institution. Meanwhile, people are lining up to apply to get into the village because everybody wanted a safe and affordable home of their own. And they wanted to have access to a nice gathering space, cafe, and other amenities. They wanted to live with neighbors who knew them, who understood them, and who were their friends. It was their choice to live, receive services, and socialize and thrive in a setting of their choice. So after 5 years of getting denied for HBS funding approval twice a year, basically for 5 years, A New Leaf finally got its approval and apology from the state of Oklahoma because it realized that the village was actually built in compliance with the settings rule, not in violation of the rule. In June, the village opened its doors and welcomed its new residents, participants, and staff. Mary is now looking into phase 2 of the village, which will create more affordable housing options. Here's a case where a state's misinterpretation of the settings rule actually leads to harming individuals with severe autism. Matt and Dan are twin brothers with severe autism living in Pennsylvania. When they were younger, they lived at a residential farm school called the Camp Hill School and later Beaver Farm, which is Camp Hill's transition program. At Camp Hill and Beaver Farm, they were safe, confident, and happy. They lived and worked with peers. They grew organic food, cared for animals, and learned trades. They were on 0 medication, and they lived an authentic life immersed in nature. But when they aged out of Beaver Farm, the only option available to them was a licensed group home model. That is because Pennsylvania has one of the most restrictive interpretations of the settings rule, and the state does not allow any congregant, farmstead, or campus model. In fact, it does not even allow 2 health and human services to be adjacent to one another. So after they fell off the cliff, literally, pretty much, Matt and Dan experienced more than 5 years of increased anxiety, aggression, self-injurious behaviors, property destruction, weight gain, depression, countless police calls, many ambulance rides to the emergency room. They basically lived a life of hell without purpose, isolated and traumatized. And in the last group home setting, the annual cost of care was approximately $550,000 per person. So where are they now? Matt and Dan are finally out of a group home setting, and they're at Wood Services, which is a health management organization that provides integrated health services to individuals with complex challenges. The brothers are at Woods, Pennsylvania campus. Since they moved to Woods, there has been no police calls, no ER visits, significantly reduced behavioral episodes, and the annual cost of care is approximately $230,000 per person. But Matt and Dan's first choice would be a farmstead community. They would be so happy to go back to a farmstead setting where they could live and work with their peers, grow organic food, care for animals, where they would be able to just regulate themselves by running around the farm. But because of Pennsylvania's restrictions, they can't have that option. It's either this or that. But, they don't really have access to what is like between those extreme options, not extreme, but those very narrow options. So, how can we make sure that whatever is happening in Pennsylvania does not happen in our home state in California? After all, we have our own barriers to worry about. We need to push back against the state and regional centers' misinterpretation of state and federal regulations. In April, DDS froze rates on residential settings that serve 7 or more residents solely based on size, not on quality outcomes, leaving 135 providers financially destitute. DDS eventually reversed this discriminatory and unethical practice in late September, but it took more than 5 months of providers and families and other advocates coming together and pushing back strongly against this horrific policy that DDS should never have implemented in the first place. This is not the first time DDS and regional centers discriminating against disability-specific settings. This is a huge problem that we face. We must advocate to preserve all good quality options. In addition, we need to advocate to remove unnecessary and discriminatory housing restrictions, including HUD Section 811's programs, 25% limit on IDD housing units, and housing density rules in California. Also, there is some kind of arbitrary rule that says 3 unrelated people cannot live together in a home without a license, which I believe is complete garbage. We're also facing direct support professional crisis. We need to pay our people more. California has money. Why can't our government adequately compensate our hardworking direct care professionals? We need to advocate both at the federal and state level. So families, please reach out to your representatives and speak up. On a positive note, let's talk about opportunities. So I'm not an expert on self-determination program, but I've seen families being able to have more flexibility in terms of accessing services that they needed more for their loved ones. So if you haven't done so already, I highly recommend looking into this program. There's a Facebook group that I follow that offers a lot of good information out there. And I believe there are many great consultants out there that can do a great job in helping out families. Next, the Surplus Land Act requires cities and counties to notify qualified affordable housing developers of the surplus land in their jurisdiction that developers can bid on to build affordable housing. Now, you need to be a qualified developer. So, but this is a great opportunity for family groups that are looking for available land in their area. And California Home Act allows you to build duplexes and fourplexes in the single family zoning area, which is a great opportunity. Also, accessory dwelling units are great for families looking for an economic way to build extra housing using their existing property. This way, your loved one can access services that are only available to those living in their own private home. There are many qualified housing developers and high quality service providers that are willing to partner with families. You just need to figure out what works and what doesn't work for you. They're out there and they have so much knowledge and expertise in housing and services that you may not have or not even necessarily need to have. So please work with them. And there are various grant and loan programs out there. We need to advocate for more IDD grants and loans. Right now, many of these programs are set aside for homeless housing. So we need to advocate for the government to carve out a separate program for IDD housing. But if you would like more control of your project, work with other like-minded families and pull your own money into an LLC or other similar investment vehicles. Great examples are Friends of Children with Special Needs in Fremont and Common Roots Farm in Santa Cruz. Another great opportunity is legacy homes, putting your family home in a trust so that it can benefit the truster's child and other adults, and making sure that the assets are protected in the trust. So, but ultimately, you have to know your rights and fight for your rights. Unite and advocate for a wide array of options for different needs and preferences. Please visit existing residential communities and learn from their successes and failures. And please visit communities that are providing support to people that are similar to your child's needs. Because those are the communities that you need to visit and figure out how they made it work to meet, those at a certain level of needs, and that might benefit your child. Partner with qualified developers and service providers. Reach out to your city, county, and state representatives. I always think that these small incorporated cities are really great cities to work with. I feel like they're a lot more flexible. It's not as competitive as trying to go for resources in city of Los Angeles, San Diego, or San Francisco. Please challenge DDS's discriminatory reimbursement rate practice if they ever introduce that again. Challenge any housing restrictions that restrict individuals' choice, but do something, because you have to start somewhere. Thank you so much.